heart that no sleep, no distraction, and no achievement could take away. A silence that doesn't feel peaceful but empty. A weight that seems less about the body and more about the soul. We often measure aging in years, wrinkles, and aching joints. But the deepest burden of life isn't time, it's what we carry inside. Old regrets, broken expectations, the stories we replay, the masks we wear, the attachments that keep us restless. This quiet suffering isn't spoken about at the doctor's office, yet it is the very thing that steals joy from our days. But what if peace is not something to chase, but something revealed when we let go? The Buddha taught, holding on is suffering, letting go is freedom. And in truth, your next chapter does not need to be about doing more, achieving more, or fixing more. It can be about releasing. In this video, we'll explore 6 things you may no longer need, weights you can finally set down. Together, we'll walk gently toward lightness, mindfulness, and a return to presence. Not someday, but right now. 1. The Buddhist way to let go of relationships that hurt you. As we grow older, something shifts. We no longer chase noise, approval, or endless obligations. What we crave, what we truly hunger for, is peace, real peace. Not just quiet surroundings, but a deep calm in the soul. And yet, so many of us keep relationships that poison that peace, believing loyalty means sacrifice. But here's the truth. You do not have to hold on to people who harm you, even if they are family. Buddhism teaches us that clinging is the root of suffering. The Buddha compared it to carrying a hot coal. You burn yourself long before it ever reaches the other person. In toxic relationships, that's exactly what happens. We carry pain, anger, and guilt, thinking it's love. But love is never meant to suffocate your spirit. Think about it. How many conversations leave you exhausted? How many visits feel like battles you never wanted to fight? That constant weight is not compassion. It is attachment to suffering. In Buddhist practice, there's a deep wisdom about letting go with kindness, not with rage, not with bitterness, but with the gentle understanding that your soul deserves room to breathe. When you release relationships that erode your peace, you are not betraying anyone, you are choosing freedom. I once heard a teacher describe it like this. Imagine carrying a heavy backpack filled with stones everywhere you go. At some point, you have 2 choices. Keep dragging it because you always have, or set it down and walk lighter. Toxic relationships are those stones. The moment you set them down, your steps become easier, your breath becomes deeper, your life becomes yours again. This is not about cutting people off in anger. It's about asking a simple, powerful question. Does this relationship nourish me, or does it drain me? If it drains you, then letting go is not cruelty, it is wisdom. Because when you protect your inner peace, you are not closing your heart, you are opening it to healthier love, truer connections, and genuine joy. So remember this, Buddhism is not about rejection, but about balance. Compassion starts with yourself. Protect your light, choose peace, and trust that by letting go of relationships that harm you, you create space for relationships that heal you. 2. Stop fearing aging. There comes a day, often in the quiet of morning, when you glance into the mirror and pause. The reflection is familiar, yet changed. The skin carries lines like rivers across a map. The shoulders slope more gently than before. The eyes still shine, but with a different fire, one softened, deepened, made wiser by time. And in that pause, you may whisper to yourself, "When did I become older?" But here is the truth. It is not aging itself that weighs most heavily. It is the fear of aging. Modern society has trained us to see wrinkles as flaws, grey hair as loss, and slower steps as decline. We are told, quietly through advertisements, loudly through culture, that youth is beauty, and that anything beyond it is fading. But this is not the way of life. It is not the way of truth. Buddhism offers another vision. The Buddha taught, all conditioned things are impermanent. Work out your liberation with diligence. Aging is not an error. It is the natural rhythm of existence. Just as seasons shift from spring to autumn, so too do our bodies carry the marks of time. To resist this is to suffer. To embrace it is to awaken. There is a Zen story of an elder master once admired for his strength and grace. In his later years, his students noticed his steps falter and his hands tremble. One day, a young monk asked, "Master, does it sadden you that your body fails you now?" The teacher placed his palm over his heart and replied, "The body is the lantern. The oil runs low. The flame flickers. But the light itself, do you not still see it burning?" Aging does not strip us of radiance. It reveals a different kind. It teaches us patience, tenderness, and gratitude. The chase for more quiets, and in its place comes contentment. The need to be admired softens, and in its place arrives the joy of simply witnessing. So, dear friend, what if aging is not your enemy, but your greatest teacher? What if every change is an invitation to grow freer, lighter, more compassionate? To age is not to fade, it is to bloom in ways youth could never imagine. 3. Stop comparing yourself to the young. It begins in the smallest of moments. A glance at an old photograph, the sound of a younger voice speaking boldly about the future, watching someone run past with effortless energy, and suddenly a quiet whisper rises inside. "I used to be like that." If we aren't careful, that whisper turns into a wound. Where did that version of me go? Why don't I feel that way now? Comparison is a thief, especially the comparison we make with our younger selves. Unlike envy toward others, this one feels almost justified, like we owe it to the past to measure up to it. We hold today against yesterday, and somehow the present always feels like it comes up short. But here is the truth. The younger version of you, the one you sometimes long for, could not. Boundless energy did not yet carry the patience, the wisdom, the depth that only years could give. In Buddhist teachings, comparison is seen as a form of ignorance because it blinds us to the reality of impermanence. A story is told of two travelers who came to a river. One was young, strong, and impatient. He leapt in and swam furiously, but quickly tired and nearly drowned. The elder traveler walked calmly downstream until he found a shallow bend where the water carried him gently across. The lesson is simple. Youth has speed, but age carries strategy. Each stage of life has its own power. I once spoke with a woman named Eleanor, 79, who carried herself with quiet dignity. She told me she had stopped attending her neighborhood fitness class. Not because I couldn't keep up, she explained, but because every time I watched the younger women move, I compared my body to theirs. I turned my effort into disappointment. After some time away, she returned, not to prove anything, but to move simply for the joy of moving. "Now I don't compare my pace to theirs," she smiled. "I celebrate that my body, with all its years, still carries me at all." That is wisdom, to witness the beauty of youth without turning it into your loss. The Buddha reminded us, comparing yourself with others only disturbs the mind. The same is true when comparing yourself with your past. You are not meant to be who you were. You are meant to be who you are now. When you stop measuring your present against yesterday, life softens. Time becomes a companion, not an enemy. And in that peace, a new invitation emerges, to forgive yourself for what you thought you lost and to embrace what you have found. On others for happiness. In the quieter seasons of life, a subtle emptiness can settle in. It doesn't always announce itself with tears or complaints. Sometimes it arrives as a soft pause between chores, a silent house, or a sunset without anyone to share it with. And in those moments, a thought creeps in. Why hasn't anyone brought me happiness? Why am I waiting for someone else to notice me? This is a natural human feeling, but it is also an illusion. Too often, we carry the belief that someone else is responsible for our joy. A spouse, a friend, a child, even fate itself. Buddhism offers a different path, the realization that happiness is cultivated within, not delivered from the outside. The Buddha said, "No one saves us but ourselves. We ourselves must walk the path." This is not loneliness. It is freedom. There's a story told of an old gardener who tended a small, forgotten temple garden. One day, a visitor asked, "How do you keep this garden so alive when no one comes to admire it?" The gardener smiled and replied, "I water it because it needs care, not because someone is watching. Joy is the same. If you wait for it to arrive, it may never come." I met a man named Arjun, 80, who learned this in his own way. After his wife passed and his children moved abroad, he found himself staring at empty walls and quiet rooms. At first, he waited, expecting calls, visits, reminders that he still mattered. But slowly, he began to create his own invitations, morning walks along the river, sketching the city skyline, volunteering at the local community center. "I realized," he said, "life doesn't wait for anyone. I had to start making my own light." True happiness is the same. It is not dependent on others' presence, approval, or actions. It is cultivated moment by moment, choice by choice. You can nurture it like a garden, tending it with your attention, your creativity, and your love. And the moment you claim this for yourself, something shifts. Comparison loses its grip. The younger version of you, the faster, fitter, more admired self, stops haunting your thoughts. What remains is deeper, serenity, freedom, and the profound knowledge that joy has always been yours to create. 5. You're never too old to learn. There's a quiet voice that creeps in as we age, subtle and persistent. It whispers, "You've seen it all. There's nothing new left to learn." It hides in the spaces between daily routines, in the pauses of ordinary afternoons, and in the silence of evenings. This belief, the idea that growth belongs only to the young, is more than a thought. It is a gentle thief, quietly stealing curiosity, wonder, and joy. But what if the opposite were true? What if life's richest lessons come not in youth, when we rush and chase, but in the later years, when the noise settles and the soul begins to whisper? In Buddhism, openness to learning is considered a form of awakening. Wisdom is not a destination. It is the ongoing practice of noticing, questioning, and seeing anew. There's a story of an elderly Zen teacher named Haruto who, well into his 80s, still greeted each day as though it were his first. One morning, a young student asked, "Master, why do you continue the same rituals every day?" Haruto smiled, his eyes twinkling. "Because each day is different. The beginner notices everything. The master only realizes how much more there is to see." His hands, weathered by decades of practice, were alive with the energy of curiosity. It's easy to think that after decades of living, through heartbreak, change, and countless seasons, we've reached the summit of understanding. But the Buddha said, just as a candle cannot burn without fire, the human spirit cannot thrive without engagement and curiosity. Spiritual and intellectual life do not end with age. They blossom when the rest of the world quiets, when ambition softens, and when the heart finally has time to ask questions the younger self never considered. I met a woman named Lila at a meditation retreat in Northern California. She was 78, widowed, with silver hair tied neatly at the nape of her neck. Recently, she had taken up learning to play the cello. "Not to perform," she laughed, "not to impress anyone. I just want to see what my hands can still do, what sounds I can still discover." She held her bow lightly but with purpose, and in her eyes I saw the thrill of a mind and spirit stretching toward the unknown. That is the essence of life, curiosity. A closed mind grows heavy, stagnant, but an open mind, even in the 8th or 9th decade, flows like a river carving through rock. Learning is the fountain of youth that no cream or potion can replicate. The lotus, revered in Buddhism, blooms from muddy water, not in spite of the mud, but because of it. Every wrinkle, every loss, every challenge is the soil from which new understanding can rise. No matter your age, the capacity to grow, to stretch, to discover remains alive. So I ask you now, what question have you been too hesitant to ask? What new skill, practice, or curiosity can you allow yourself to explore? Approach this chapter of life not as an ending, but as a sacred beginning. Open the door to learning again, gently, like greeting an old friend. And on the other side, you may find something more profound than knowledge itself. A deep, living joy that comes from knowing the heart is never too old to bloom. 6. Release regret and forgive yourself. There are memories that visit in the quietest hours, soft, insistent, impossible to ignore. A word left unsaid, a path you didn't take, a choice you wish you could undo. These moments do not shout, they linger, shaping the way we move through life. We smile, but only halfway. We celebrate, but the joy feels borrowed. We speak of the past carefully, skipping over the parts that still sting. This is the quiet work of regret, and for many, it becomes one of the heaviest burdens in later years. It is not the thinning hair or aching knees, but the weight of what could have been, the choices we wish we had made differently. Buddhism teaches that compassion must begin with ourselves. The Buddha said, "You yourself, as much as anyone in the entire universe, deserve your love and attention." This includes the younger self, the one who acted out of fear, confusion, pride, or desperation, the one who stumbled, who failed, but kept going. There's a story of an elder named Mei Ling who had spent her youth chasing wealth and recognition, often at the expense of others. In her later years, she came to a monastery burdened by shame. She confessed to a teacher, "I wasted my life. I hurt people. I was blind to kindness. How can I ever find peace?" The teacher simply smiled and said, "The river accepts every drop of rain, whether pure or muddy. So too can your life be held with compassion. Wisdom can grow from all of it. Regret is not a life sentence. It is a signal, a chance to turn toward ourselves with gentleness rather than punishment. Forgiveness is not forgetting. It is remembering without the poison. It is saying, I did the best I could with what I knew, and now I know better. I will live better." When you release regret, something remarkable happens. Possibility unfolds. You open your hands to the present, to the life still waiting for you. At any age, in any circumstance, you are not finished. The past has shaped you, but it does not define you. You can step into the rest of your life lighter, freer, and more fully alive. Thank you for joining me on this journey of letting go, finding peace, and embracing life's later chapters with wisdom and grace. If today's video resonated with you, remember, true freedom isn't found in chasing achievements, comparing yourself to others, or holding on to what no longer serves you. It's found in releasing, forgiving, and opening your heart to the present moment. From letting go of toxic relationships to embracing the beauty of aging, releasing regret, and reclaiming your own happiness, these are not just Buddhist teachings. They are practical tools to lighten your soul and deepen your joy every single day. By cultivating mindfulness, self-compassion, and curiosity, you can create a life of serenity, resilience, and authentic fulfillment, no matter your age or circumstance. If you found value in this video, hit the like button, share it with someone who may need this message, and subscribe